What's going on, everyone? I'm Lorentz from iWood Cosplay, and if you're looking to make Fishbone, this is part 1 of 3 of this build. Organizing all materials you'll need for the project will help ensure a smooth build. If you're starting from the pattern, you can print them to scale under the poster setting. Make sure your settings are the same as these. Landscape or portrait will print fine. After printing all 68 pages, you'll need to restitch all the edges, cut, and transfer them to foam. This is a more affordable option, but remember you'll still need to purchase your own foam. For the price of all the foam you'll need, plus a little more, you can skip all this and get to the build part with a foam kit. Starting with A1X, we'll build foam cylinders from our pre-cut foam. Making these cylinders is a simple process of 1. Making a long strip from 2 shorter strips, 2. Then applying glue and wrapping them around their corresponding circle. For convenience, I've included registration marks that will help line up the top and bottom edge. Apply contact cement to the back side of the strip, as well as the ends that will be joining up when fully wrapped. For this, we'll use Super 77 instead. Using the 3-inch mailing tube not provided as a handle, apply Super 77 to the curved surface. If you're wondering what these holes are for, they'll be used for part 3 in case anyone wants to build electronics into their fishbone. Here you'll see the label A1-1. -1 indicates that this piece should face towards the head. Applying glue to the curved surface, let it dry tacky to a touch before wrapping the cylinders up. Line the bottom edge up with the registration marks. The mailing tube should help wrap things up. The rest of the interior body will be different styles and sizes of cylinders, but the idea is the same. Make long strips, then wrap them around the curved surface. Parts A6 and A7 will require an angle cut. We'll come back to these. For now, let's label and make parts A2 through A5. Like before, we'll start with making the long strips. Then we'll wrap each cylinder corresponding to their labels. Remember, -1 indicates that this side faces towards the head, and -2 indicates that this side faces towards the tail. It's important to keep the top and bottom registrations aligned when wrapping the edges. For part A2 and A3, we will sandwich the green foam with its corresponding EVA foam parts. So apply contact cement to the back of each of these parts. Do the same thing for the back side and carefully line up the edges. Remember, green foam doesn't like contact cement, so use Super 77 instead. Sandwich the green foam by carefully lining up the registration marks. If you did everything correctly, you should have something that looks like an Oreo. Apply Super 77 to the curved surface. Using the marked line, begin wrapping the edge surface. This strip is meant to wrap around the edge with a 2 to 4 mm step on both sides. Do the same for A3. Similarly, A4 and A5 are wrapped up without green foam. Coming back to A6 and A7, these pieces will require a negative bevel cut, in other words, towards the foam. To prevent chaos, label the parts after they are cut out. Both these parts will have split circles that will create a cone when joined at the ends. Apply glue to the ends that will come together. We'll also apply glue to the bevel edge where the cone will sit. Lastly, apply glue to the outer curved surface of each split circle. Start with a straight strip. Join the ends together. Then, making sure the labeled side is not facing out, join the pieces at the seam edge, carefully following the beveled surface. At the end of the strip will be put in a tight spot. I like to attach a corner first, then work my way around the seam edges. By now you should be a pro at wrapping foam. Do the same thing for A7. Lastly, cover the exposed end of A7 using A7-3. Positioning the backing, marking its position, then applying superglue to secure the pieces together. Make sure the label side is not facing out. For added security, I'm adding duct tape as reinforcement. Lastly, add the flat surface pieces using superglue. Congrats, that completes part A1 through A7. Grab a cup of coffee and we'll come back for parts B of the interior body. Let's start by making the main body of Fishbone, which consists of B1 and B1-3. This inner part, B1-3, will help reinforce the main body. Prepare the piece by heating the parts with a heat gun and roll the pieces. Apply contact cement to the backside of B1-3 and B1. Next, apply some glue to the top and bottom border of B1, similar to an H pattern. Remember, -1 indicates facing towards the head, and -2 indicates facing towards the tail. Apply glue to the curved edges. When glue is dry and tacky to a touch, attach B1-3 to B1, maintaining the curve. B1-1 will be the bigger circle, which corresponds to the longer side of B1. Using the registration mark, line up the edges of the two pieces together. B1-2 will be the smaller circle, which corresponds to the shorter side. Line up the edges along the registration marks. Now all you have to do is carefully wrap up the cylinder. Similar to part A. Pick a corner and work along the seam edges. If this part didn't come out very nice, it's alright. Most of it will be covered up towards the end of the build. Using the mailing tube, not provided, link in the description, attach A7 to one end. Then wrap up B3 around the tube. This is a permanent position on the tube. Make sure you're happy before proceeding. B3 creates a seam edge. We can use this as a reference line to line up parts. B2 is just a spacer that slides on the tube. Slide on collar 2. Slide on the main body. Slide on collar 1. Finally, slide on A1. That completes the interior body. There are still some details to add, so I recommend not gluing any of these parts together yet. Now we can start building the exterior of the body. We'll start with the skull. The edges that are uncut are meant to be beveled. All beveled cuts are -45-degree cuts, in other words, towards the pattern. While the pieces are still flat, I like to carve out the teeth details using my utility knife. Then I'll come back with my Dremel and smooth out the teeth. To assemble, we'll start applying glue to all these seam edges that will join together to make the skull. Let them dry, tacky to a touch. I like to start with these two pieces which make up the top of the nose bridge. Next we attach the nose bridge to this part, which is the top of the skull. Carefully line up the corner. Make sure the back side of the edge is joined securely. Afterwards, we can move on to attach the sides of the skull along these beveled edges. As you've seen earlier, for tricky edges, I like to join the corners, then work along the edges. Be patient. Once you've secured the corners, you shouldn't have to force the edges. Next is the collar trim. Notice the angle of each cut and carefully cut each edge accordingly. Once we have the trim properly cut, then we can join the two pieces along the seam edges using contact cement. The collar was set at an angle. Apply glue to the edges that need to be joined. Once dry and tacky to a touch, attach the pieces starting from a corner. Some push and pull may be required. To make the jaw, we'll start here. You can attach the trim details however you like, but I'll show you my way of attaching this part. I find it easier to attach the trim with super glue while the negative remains intact. Carefully position and glue the trim. Remove the negative, then apply glue to the back of the circle and reposition them. Removing the negative will leave all the details perfectly positioned. But if you prefer, you can eyeball the positioning. This is just one way of maintaining precision. You can also use contact cement if you prefer. Moving to the next part of the jaw, we'll remove these two side parts. For convenience, the kit includes the exact position to join pieces. This flat part should position upward. Once we have the pieces properly positioned, we'll attach them using super glue. The front of the jaw is this piece here. The two side edges will need a negative 45-degree bevel. Because the seam edge will require some flexibility, we'll attach the pieces using contact cement. Keep in mind the orientation of the jaw before connecting the pieces. Now that we have the side of the jaw, all that's left to connect is the bottom part of the jaw. Apply contact cement to the edges that need to be joined. Let them dry tacky to a touch. Then connect them, starting from the corners. And that's all for the jaw. To attach the ribs section, we'll need to properly position them onto B1, which is part of the interior body. Using the registration marks on the flat side, create a midline to help center the ribs. You can use needles to hold the position of the ribs, but these thick foam pieces and the needles I had were too short to keep them positioned, so I went with Gorilla Glue duct tape as an alternative. With the ribs secured in position, I marked its position. You can apply glue to B1 without marking the position of the ribs, but your finish might be messier. Once the bottom ribs are glued onto B1, you can attach the top ribs. The purpose of these is to support the back cover, which we'll add later. I don't have an exact position for these, but this is where they sit over B1. If you're planning on adding LED later, you might want to create channels like these on the top ribs, but we'll get to that in a later video. To add the tail accessory, we'll begin by adding glue along the trim region. Peel away the adhesive backing and attach the trim detail. Next, go to B3, which is the part of the interior body, and mark the position of this strip. Make sure the strip will sit on the bottom side of the barrel. The other tail accessory will be attached to the top side of the barrel. Carefully mark its position, then secure the two pieces with super glue. If done correctly, you should have something that looks like this. Next, we'll cover part A5 of the interior body with these perforated details. Attach them together along these seam edges to create a long strip. Because this piece is adhesive back EVA, you only need to apply glue to the region where the seam edges will likely come apart. The fins will include a base piece with trim markings and the trim details on a giant 2mm adhesive foam sheet. A quick dry fit will indicate if you have the correct trim. Although these are adhesive back foam, I like to add some super glue for some extra adhesion. For precision, I like to add the trim a section at a time. Heat shape to desired curve. For fin 2, we're doing the same thing, attaching the adhesive trim to the fin using super glue. Keep in mind the orientation of this front piece. The rounded bottom sits at the base of fin 2. Heat shape to desired curve. Properly position the front plate of the base of fin 2 and mark its position. Then secure the two pieces using super glue. For fin 3, we'll start by heat shaping this piece. Once you're happy with the shape, apply contact cement to the edges between the slit. Use a blow dryer to speed up the dry time. Once the contact cement is dry and tacky to a touch, you can begin putting the two edges together. Like fin 2, position the front plate and mark the position on the back side of the front plate. Then secure the two pieces using super glue. The back cover consists of two pieces and its trim detail. We'll start by joining the base layer along these edges using contact cement. Heat shape the base layer to your desired curve. Then apply contact cement to the trim region of the base layer. Carefully attach the trim detail, working in sections. That's all the pieces you need to make your own fishbone. The trigger handle is included in the kit, but that will be included in the electronics part of the tutorial. Here I'm just putting it together to show you what the body will look like. But I recommend keeping all parts separate by color, which will help in the painting process in the next video.